What's going on, everybody? You are listening to the Co-Living Show. My name is Craig Curlop,
I'm Miller McSwain.
and we are pumped to bring you a stellar episode today. The man of many hats with long hair that he wants like anime, Osman. Could you think you could grow hair out like Matt Osman? What would happen? Because your hair grows in the back, right? So would it like just
Yeah, it
have
kind of
long
like
hair?
yeah, it's
Like,
like typical male pattern baldness. It's like on the side and on the back. I could grow on those areas, but yeah, up top, I would look much less attractive.
yeah, fair
I think as
enough.
I get older, it'll make sense eventually. There's like old white guys who have that hairdo going on, like all my grandparents, and thus that's why I'm this way. So it'll make sense eventually.
It will make sense eventually, yeah, but maybe not quite right now.
Yeah, not
So, yeah, man, Matt's episode is actually pretty cool. We talk a lot about him being a realtor and how he connected with Sam. He was Sam's realtor and helped Sam buy a lot of his first. Like you hear a different perspective of Sam's like Genesis story of like how he got started, which I thought was really cool. And the biggest thing though is we do a deep dive on insurance. So if you're wondering at all about co-living insurance and how that works and what is available out there, like this is an episode that you need to listen all the way through. And yeah, just absolutely fantastic. Miller, what did you think?
Yeah, I think this is an awesome resource. If you guys ever read the co-living cash flow book that I wrote, the insurance chapter is incredibly short. It's like a page or two. And that's because honestly, so far everyone's been in the unknown and the gray and not knowing what's going on with insurance in the co-living realm. So I feel like this is maybe the first good product and this episode is the first like good resource on this topic. Because yeah, it's been so unknown for so long. So personally, I'm glad to know more about it and check his product out there because yeah, no one has known for a little while now.
Yeah, I love that. And it's good. It's good that there's finally a solution. Like we knew that was coming. We're just a matter of who wanted to do it and who was able to get it done. And it looks like Matt seems to be the first guy. I'm sure there'll be many more after him. And so, yeah, we're excited to dive into it a little bit here on the show. All right. And before we get into the episode, we have to take a question from the group and answer it here on the show. So from our friend Angela Yan, hey guys, what organizational tools are you using to manage your co-living houses? From collecting rents to organizing maintenance, etc. Is there an all-in-one?
Awesome. Okay. So there is a mostly in one, but I think no matter what, everyone's going to have at least a couple of different tools. Maybe I can focus on three of them. So first up, there's your property management system. So that's where you collect your rents and do your maintenance, kind of like Angela's talking about. Otherwise, I would also pair up a bookkeeping software and some sort of like communication platform. So as far as property management softwares go, the one that we see most often for smaller type portfolios, 7 properties or less, is Inago. We see a lot of people use Inago. That's INNAGO. And Rent Ready and Turbo Tenant are a couple other ones that I see people use. But that's where you'll collect rent, do your maintenance requests. Otherwise, bookkeeping software, super important. I see a lot of people using Baselane these days to track their transactions and upload receipts and do all that. And then maybe the third part of this that's unique to co-living would be some sort of communication platform for the residents. So this is where you can send messages to them about maintenance issues or whatever, but also to keep the residents in touch with each other so that they're able to talk and communicate in the house. So those would be the big 3 ones. And as far as communication goes, WhatsApp is like pretty standard. I see people using Telegram or some other ones too.
Awesome. Miller, thanks so much for answering that. That's definitely a 100% you question. Hey, if you guys are a real estate agent and you're looking to totally blow up your business by working with investors and have a good, scalable, repeatable clientele where you're not cold calling, you're not open housing, you're not doing all this crazy stuff like real estate agents have to do, you need to work with investors. And if you want to scale your business, you got to be at the Investor Agent Summit coming to Denver, May 21st to 23rd, 2026. Get your ticket at theinvestoragentsummit.com. Can't wait to see you there. And so why don't we bring on Mr. Matt Osman. Matthew Osman, welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today, bro?
Thank you, man. Thank you. I'm good. Good to see y'all again. I think both of you guys, I think it's been since Denver last year that
Yeah,
I
man.
saw you guys. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you
You
growing
guys
your
are
hair
doing big
out?
things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, I'm trying to get the anime look where it can flow out back and get really spiky, except I have really curly hair, so that's not going to happen. But it's a
Okay.
dream of mine to have, anime flowing hair.
So in case you're ever
Um,
running really fast, it looks cool behind
right.
you.
Yeah.
Looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
your
like
hair will
every, yeah, like every 8-year-old, and like
yeah.
my kid, she just runs in the permanent anime run, and her hair's
Hmm.
flowing back. Man, I
You're
love
are you an anime guy?
Yeah, I am. Not as big as my wife and her family, but definitely I'm big into anime, Full
Oh
Metal,
man,
Alchemist, Attack on Titan,
Miller, I feel like
Jujutsu
you'd be into
Kaisen.
I feel like you'd be into anime too.
I'm not huge into it, but my brother is. There's always at least one person, I think. So I've the names that you mentioned there, Matt, are definitely familiar to me.
Yes, absolutely, man. So yeah, it's going out, man. Just seeing what this does.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, enough about cartoons. Let's start talking about co-living. Matt, tell us a little bit about, who you are, what's your story, and like why the heck did we invite you on here?
Why are you with me? Yeah, I'm Matt Osman, and I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm a real estate agent. Story kind of is interesting because it kind of flows into co-living, as it were. I was born in Metro Detroit, basically lived there till I was about 18. I dropped out of community college after a couple of weeks, realizing that really wasn't for me. And I had a friend in the US Virgin Islands living down there. So I moved down there. And come to find out that after I got there, I spent all my money within the first 2 days, which was only about $700 anyways. And that's kind of how co-living started for me. Was I was living in people's houses on their couches in their rooms. Once one time I was rooming with this woman, and she and I had hooked up one time. So it was really cool. I thought we might even become boyfriend, girlfriend, except we didn't. We just stayed friends. And so it would just get really awkward when we were sharing this one room and the bed. And then she would have a friend over at night, and I would have to kind of leave the room, you know. And so, and then from there, it was bouncing the couches for weeks. I was very, very poor, eating out of garbages, really trying to find my way, trying to find a job down there. And finally, I ended up getting a waiting job and then a bartending job. And that actually changed everything for me. I started networking out. And then from there, 4 or 5 years later, I had met the woman that was going to be my wife. And I had a regular of mine at the bar. He was a wealthy guy that would stay about half the year in the islands. And he looked at me when she came and brought me lunch. And he said, "Boy," he's like, "you don't keep a wife by being a bartender." And so from there, it was kind of like, all right, I have to get my head together and start being an adult. I'm going to be able to keep this wife, which I did. I did good, you know? And
Yeah.
so that brought us to Charlotte. And we were here maybe a year or so. And then I decided I needed to get my real estate license because I didn't have any money, but I knew I wanted to invest in real estate somehow. All my wealthy regulars that are my friends, they all have substantial portfolios of some kind, whether it was commercial, multifamily, just tons of single family rentals. So I knew that's kind of how I had to go. I just had no way of getting there. And so then I got my real estate license, and then it came to find out I actually really, really liked it. And then I met Sam Wiegert, who at the time, as you guys know, he's the one of the co-living kings of the country right now. But at the time, he was had a few rentals, but was running a martial arts business. And
Hmm.
I sponsored one of his graduations on the agreement that I would meet with this guy Sam and and see what happens from there. Well, he bought a house for me, and then the next year he bought two more. Next year was about two, three more, five more. And then one year he says, "Hey man, I've got to liquidate a bunch of properties." So I went through and I was touring his properties that we were going to list. And I noticed there was keypads, doorknobs on every door inside the house. And I was like, "Well, I don't really see a living room in here. I don't really see what the heck is going on in here, dude." And that's when he showed me that he was, renting out the rooms, co-living. He had 10 rooms in there and he was grossing, I think he said close to about $10,000 a month, I think it was. And that's when my mind just kind of, because the house was in tip top condition. It was updated, it had a beautiful, massive common area for people. And it really felt like a great place to live, not just rent a room. And so once he started going through that, I said, "Man, I really want to chase this and continue to work with you on this," is because at that same time he was starting to build that co-living portfolio. And then it just kind of snowballed into how do we develop this or how do we do this? And then that turned into, well, how do we develop a system to do this? And, and as you can see now, he's got Scalable Real Estate, and and it's turned into a national sensation almost. So that's really how my journey started. Started in the Caribbean as just a teenager, and then coming up here and meeting just the right people with the right visions and similar gusto, I guess. And I just wanted to follow that, be a part of it.
I'm curious, Matt, like when you were in Sam's house for the first time, you said there was no living room, but there was a common area. So like what was the common area?
The common area was the garage. At the time, they
Oh
had
wow.
converted the garage. It was carpet tiled. They had great lighting, heating, and cooling in there. There was, it was like a pool table or a ping pong table and a little lounge area to sit down. I was just like, wow, man, that's really cool. This kind of has this almost dorm like feeling or student housing type feeling, but for regular folks. So I just found that to be really, really interesting, really cool.
Mm, I love that. And so then you kind of got coined as like the co-living realtor
I
somehow.
guess, man. Yeah, because, Sam was buying multiple properties over, getting multiple properties. And then as he's decided that he wanted to start teaching this to other people, well, I was his realtor here. And so really it was, okay, let's create SOPs for this. What are we doing in this transaction? And what am I looking for? What's our buy box going to be? And just test and rinse and repeat. And then eventually, obviously, as he started getting students and investors coming to learn about co-living, that's when they started buying properties actively here in Charlotte. And so therefore, I was their resource for them to be able to acquire these co-living properties. And, it just, I guess it was really natural. I didn't even know. I had told Sam I didn't think this stuff was going to do anything. Yeah, I'm like if we teach 10 people, I'll be shocked.
Yeah.
And here now co-living is nationwide with so many different styles. I love it.
Yeah. So kind of in those early days there, before you met Sam, were you working with any
Mhm.
other investors, and what kind of strategies were they doing?
It was typical, and I had just started really getting into the investor side. I was working really I really wanted to do, large multifamily complexes
Okay.
and, class A, class B buildings, but I just didn't have the network here. And I wasn't mentally ready, savvy, mature enough to be able to actually move into that space. So I started pivoting and wanted to learn more about the rentals, the Burr methods, things of that nature. I had read, every agent reads that Gary Keller Become a Millionaire Real Estate Agent, but almost 99% of the agents miss the most key line in that book, which is working with investors is recession proof.
Mm.
Hmm.
You guys are hungry in every market. You don't care about interest rates. You don't. I mean, you do, but you don't because you're naturally taxed higher to do that. So that was just such a key phrase in that book. I said, well, all right, well then I'll just try and base my entire business if I can off of investors, or if they are residential buyers, turn them into investors. So, and then eventually that would be for me. You know.
Yeah. So are
Yeah.
you only, when you're working with new investors, are you only kind of pitching this idea of co-living and working with them like on co-living acquisitions? Or is there like a time where you tell someone, hey, this other strategy might be better for you?
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, right now the way money is being lent out in the costs of things, you know, recommending a single family rental is not really conducive unless they've owned it for a long time or they have a very low interest rate, right? So a lot of the times it does come down to strategy, but I think as soon as you realize the income potential that just by renting out 4 rooms individually instead of renting out the house as a whole, how much more money they're going to put into their pocket, it's almost like a no-brainer. And at that point, it's just whether or not do you have the capital and resources to turn it over to get it ready to do that. So for especially the guys that and my investors that are in the single family rental or the single family residences, I should say, in that world, I'm immediately trying to get them into co-living because now we actually have the system. I mean, the system you guys see out there for the most part is what we've kind of created.
Yeah. I'm the realtor, right? Too. So I'm with you here. Like in working with investors, like I can't describe it enough. I got to ask you, Matt, are you coming to our investor agent summit?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I won't miss that. I mean, I have multiple hats that I wear within co-living now. And so, okay, let's talk insurance here. I'll do that. Oh, you want to talk setting up for co-living? Here you go. Oh, you want to talk co-living property management or operating? Here,
You,
let's put on this hat.
you need
So
to,
yeah, no, I'm
you,
not missing that.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll have to get you over there, man. It's gonna be great, and we're gonna have to get you a room in one of your co-living rooms for all these hats that you're wearing.
Well,
We got to
I
have a
set
hat
up
room.
I set up hangers on each one of the doors,
Yeah,
and so I'll just hang one in each one of those
hanging.
rooms.
There you
Be
go. I
good.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Cool. Well, yeah, man. I'm pumped to see you there. But yeah, it's gonna be good. And then, sorry, I had to just interrupt on the investor friendly realtor thing. That's how we built our whole business. So I love
Well,
that too.
I had noticed that you had built a team with, a whole team around it. And so,
Yeah,
that's kind of my end goal, is to kind of get out of the day-to-day part. I mean, I'm in 40 homes a week personally. I mean, a month personally,
yeah.
looking for co-living homes. And I'd like to kind of teach somebody else to kind of do those things. But
Well,
I noticed how you've done that. It's really, really impressive.
we can talk offline. We'll chat
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
that. Yeah. But all right, Matt. So to kind of continue your story, it's amazing what one connection can do.
Yeah.
I kind of just want to talk about that, right? Like
Yeah.
the importance of networking, the importance of getting out there, the importance of sponsoring events and like getting in good graces with people and taking that risk on someone. Can we talk just a little bit about that? Like, what about Sam
Yeah.
attracted you, I guess? And like, why did you decide to sponsor that event?
The story of how I sponsored that event is pretty funny. I'm a martial artist as well. I've been practicing Wing Chun for probably 8, 9 years now. And I was in line at the DMV switching my Virgin Islands license over to Charlotte, and this guy was standing in front of me, and he was wearing a martial arts shirt, and I was wearing a Bruce Lee shirt. I was like, "Wow, let's be friends!" And it turned out he was one of Sam's main instructors at one of his schools. So he wanted he needed sponsorship for the graduation. It just felt natural. He and I were already hitting it off naturally as friends, and it was a martial arts school, so it was a natural affinity for me. I have always struggled with professional networking. I'm a bartender. I'm a guy that will sit down with you, we'll have a drink, and by the end of it, you will be my client. And, you know, uh, natural scenarios like poker games, or just being in a place where I can just talk and not be, hey, I'm wearing my name tag. And what do you do? And it's just such forced and fake. And, with the martial arts school, it just seemed kind of a natural thing. We were already naturally getting along in the line. I knew we were going to be friends afterwards. And then the opportunity came, and I was such a pup in business. I didn't have a network. All my
Mhm.
network was just kind of wrong side of the tracks type people. And so there wasn't any way to expand professionally or to grow my professional network. So that was really the start. And so when I got to the event, and Sam's walking up to me, and I don't know that it's Sam, because the guy is younger than me,
Mhm.
right? It's this young guy walking up, maybe 20, 25, 26 at the time, and he's walking up to me. Hey, I'm Sam. Uh, you're Sam? I'm expecting a mid 40s, maybe upper 40s guy, someone who owns multiple businesses. I'm like, you're Sam? And it was weird, man. I had never met anybody who had more energy than I do. That
Hmm.
someone's energy was actually like, dang, man, whoa, okay. And kind of I watched him talk to the crowd and see how they responded to him. And I kind of just knew from there instinctually. I'm like, this kid is going places, whatever he's going to do. And I told him that. I said, I don't know where you're going to end up, but I do have a feeling that one day you may be a billionaire, and I want to help you get there. Because
Yeah.
if you become a billionaire, I become a multimillionaire. And so but I meant it. I mean, the guy had a drive that I just had never seen before. So and then you're right, the relationship, by performing well for him and being an advocate for him, led me to just now, I mean, here we are sitting together.
Mhm.
Without me and Sam, I don't know Craig and Miller. So it's that's how powerful it is, because now I'm sitting in rooms where I'm affecting legislation. Potentially we're affecting lending practices and insurance practices, and that's all based off of the relationships, man. That's my number one superpower, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me dive in on something there. So you kind of talked about professional networking versus like what you called like bartender networking, or like
Yeah.
more natural
Yeah.
type, casual type networking. So the good thing about professional networking is like you can go online and you can figure out where to go. Like,
Yeah.
oh, hey, there's a meetup happening over here. This is happening over here. There's an online webinar. I can hop in and talk to people over there. Like however many people you want to talk to, you can make a list and start like running
Yeah.
down it. So, but whenever you talk about this more like natural type or like bartender type networking, is there anything that you've done in your career to put you in scenarios that will be more likely that you talk to a successful person and convert them to a client or like whatever it is? Or are these like purely random interactions that you can't really increase the odds of them happening?
No, it's sometimes it's, I mean, sometimes it's random. I found that I'm naturally good with people, and it's easy for me to be able to create relationships relatively quickly with people. But it, the natural networking kind of starts with my business relationship. I had a lender partner who was on that same trajectory as I was, and was as hungry as I was, and built up really quickly. And so just by naturally being around him, well, that allowed me to be around his circle. And
Mm,
because of that, it just was a natural, hey, Mike, this is my friend Mike, this is Matt, and hey, this is Tim. And we're already conversing around something that we all have a common interest in. For golf, for example, I think golf is such a, I love golf too, and I will go to the golf course by myself just to get paired up with somebody,
mm,
because I know that you and I are going to sit in a cart together for 4.5 hours, and you're going to tell me something about your life, or we're going to relate to something about your life within that 4 hours, because we're already there playing something that we both love. So I just find, okay, raise my circle, yes. So I have to, increase the net worth of my friends in a sense, or be around that proximity, I guess I should say. But just by doing that has allowed me to then naturally become friendly and create real relationships with them, and then that expands out and expands out and expands out. And so the forced versus the not forced is, in forced they go, hey, what do you do, and what are you looking
mm.
for, how can I help you? When we're not forced and we're just sitting there, and the guy's going, man, I really don't like this thing about my job, and you can start to dig into what it is really that they don't like, because it's already just this natural setting of, boss is calling me, I don't want to answer this. Well, what don't you like about your job? Blah blah
Mhm.
blah. And just from there, and then just ask a million questions about them, and then I'm on my way, dude. I'm on my way.
Yeah, I'm so with you. I think there's a lot of opportunities where you can bring up some of these natural conversations that but probably lead towards a talk about investing or a talk about your business or whatever, and how you guys can help each other out. Like, for example, kind of similar to the golf club thing that you're talking about. I was at a ski resort nearby, where I live a couple years ago. And pretty much every time I would hop on the lift, I would somehow always try to get the conversation around to, do you have any property? Do you invest? Like whatever. And it was usually pretty easy because a lot of
Yeah.
people were staying there in short-term rentals, or they like own a short-term rental that, or like a
Hmm.
vacation house that they're staying in. And like there's a couple guys I can think of. One of them, me and Craig were talking to recently. This random guy met on the ski lift, had a short-term rental in town. I said something about bigger pockets, and we start talking. And he's been on our investor list for 2 years and might potentially, invest here soon. So yeah, always kind of keep your eyes open for those natural entries into the conversation. And yeah, like Matt said, it's not the I'm wearing the name tag, my name's Miller, and I'm here to buy real estate. It's, oh no, what do you do? Oh cool, maybe we can work something together. Maybe this intertwines a little bit.
And
Like when you start
honestly,
looking.
it's, and I don't even look at it for like the right now.
Mm-hmm,
I just want to know you, build it naturally. And then when that opportunity strikes, once you've created more times, more relationship, more rapport with them, and all of a sudden they're going to start asking about you and what you do. And all of a
mm-hmm,
sudden you can start talking about how you're an investor in co-living. And they go, what the hell is co-living? And go, ha, funny, you should ask. I'm going to teach
Yeah.
you right now. And so when I'm meeting people, I don't give a shit if we talk about what we do in business at all for at least the first 2 3 touch points, because I really don't care. I just want to see, hey, are we even going to be compatible as people together? First of all, are we even going to mesh? Are I even going to like you? And then from there, it's just let it take its course. But when I feel like if I'm trying to force it, I'll actually get nowhere.
Yeah, no, I think that's a huge part. I really love the idea of like you approach a conversation in with networking, like you talk to somebody and you follow up with them and you hang, and you continuously reach out to them before you need anything,
Yeah.
right? Keep it authentic, keep the relationship authentic, and then when something does come up and you need something, well, it's not like you're really asking for anything. You're having another conversation with a buddy, and now there's a question in that conversation. And it
And
becomes
they
much more
naturally
natural.
remembered that you helped them. Maybe you helped
Yeah.
them out, like
Yeah.
get them what they need, and it has nothing to do with you. Maybe it's like, I need an officiant for my daughter's wedding next month. Like, hey, my cousin, here, let me set, like, just something as simple as that, where you're helping somebody get what they need. They don't
Yeah.
forget that. It
Yeah.
does come back in some form or fashion, even if it's just a, hey, that dude Matt, man, he helped me out. That's a good guy.
Yeah.
It's simple as that, you know?
The law of reciprocity. If you ever read the book
Boom.
Influence, it's one of like the best books of all time. Read that book Influence, and you learn about the law of reciprocity in there.
Okay.
Matt, I want to talk a little bit about too. You said you're in all these different verticals now, kind of all things co-living, right?
Hey guys, the tool I've been talking about forever, Co-Living Pro, is now officially live. So some of the biggest problems that I've encountered around co-living are always on the marketing side. So you can think of Co-Living Pro as a marketing software or a tool to help you overcome some of these marketing issues that we all run into in the co-living space. So number one, it helps you determine what to price your room at and then how to change that price over time. And that's actually a free tool. You can go there to colivingpro.io, and there's a little like rentometer type tool where you can punch in an address, punch in a zip, punch in a city, and kind of see what rooms might rent for there. But it does that for you. And number two, historically, for us to keep our rooms operating at full capacity, especially when we're off a pad split, it's meant that we had to post on Zillow, post on Zumper, post on Apartments, post on Roomies, post on all these places. And with just a 5-bedroom house, that's already 20 listings right there, which is a lot of work, a lot of time and effort. So Co-Living Pro helps you solve this. You just make your listing on this one site, and it pushes it to Zillow, pushes it to Zumper, and we even support any platform with the manual listing manager. So you can still be on Apartments, still be on Roomies, still be on Pad Split, still be on anything. And it's kind of a wizard that helps you stay organized, your VA stay organized. It shows you what rooms need to be posted where with just quick copy paste prompts. Copy your rent over, copy your description over, boom, you're good to go. And number three, historically, now that you're on all these sites, we always had to hop in daily or at least weekly to keep these listings up at the top, keep the pricing up to date. So Co-Living Pro solves that for you too. It's making those adjustments for you on a daily basis, even an hourly basis, to make sure your listings are updated across your platforms. So you guys know everything I've always done has been free. The community is free. This podcast is free. I'm super proud of that and definitely going to keep doing all that. But this tool is paid, but I feel comfortable doing that because the numbers are honestly pretty insane. So if you go to Co-Living Pro, there is a calculator where you can do this for your own situation. But let's take that example earlier of the 1 5-bedroom property. From that, we estimate you'll make an extra $1,400 a year in extra rent and reduced vacancy. And that is 5x what the tool costs. Let me say that again. This tool produces 5x the return of what it costs. So in this example, that's actually a better return than most co-living properties themselves, being around 15, 16%. So seriously, to me, this is a no-brainer. I think you should totally go sign up, especially right now. We have limited time founders pricing, so it's 50% off for life. Whenever you add a property, that property stays 50% off for the first 100 signups before the end of April. So head over to colivingpro.io. This is the tool that I built for my own business, and I'm so happy that I can finally share it with you guys. And back to the episode.
So let's put on the insurance hat, man. I think a lot of people having questions around insurance, and
That's a big hat, my son.
it's a big gap, I think, in this industry.
Yes.
And there's a lot of there's just a lot of question marks around it. So tell us a little bit about the problems that you're seeing with insurance. Why a typical, does a typical homeowner's policy work? Does a landlord's policy work? If not, what does work?
Right. So it started with the fact that there was just incidences that were happening at some of the co-living investors' houses that were taking just prolonged amounts of time to get resolved. And really those problems or those hiccups would start once they would come in and investigate. Because on your landlord policy and and pretty much just a standard across in insurance industry is that any more than 4 unrelated people is too much liability for one house. And so they might have known that they were doing room rentals, but they didn't know to the amount of people that were being housed into this room. So when you start, I mean, think about, I never lived in a frat house or anything, but I've heard stories where it's 20 guys, 20 people living in a house together. It can be just absolute chaos, not to mention the increase of usages on every system in the house. The HVAC and the plumbing and the water, all of that gets doubled up and tripled up, and therefore increasing the likelihood that risk is going to happen. And then once those things did happen, maybe they would pay you out, maybe they would, but you're being dropped because now they know that you are now you have more than four people who are not related living in a house together.
Hmm.
And so the policies that were being issued, like I know there's a couple of companies, I won't say the names, but there was a couple of companies who were like knowingly insuring these homes incorrectly. And now the parent companies are trying to figure out, okay, well, how do we eliminate that risk? Because it is too much risk. I mean, when you're talking about the incomes generated too from a co-living house versus a standard single family rental where your gross income might be 15, 16,000, depending on the market and the rents and everything. But in a co-living business's instance, your gross income can be upwards of 40, $50,000, and that's a legitimate business's income. And it's just not apples to apples in the insurance eyes of what they have believed they are covering versus what is the reality of the product that's out there. And so once they started seeing that you're getting over these five people, we're saying we're looking at the income amounts, the loss of rents potentially paid out if the house becomes somehow uninhabitable and you've got eight people living in your house. That's eight incomes potentially lost for however many months. You do the math. And the
Hmm.
insurance companies don't want to pay that because you basically frauded them and lied to them about what was going on at that house. So there is that massive gap between what was being advertised to the insurance companies about room rentals and what's going on here versus the reality of what they're putting their policy behind. And when you start to take a look at it, if you were the insurer yourself and you didn't know that eight, nine people were living in a house, you would not be happy.
100%. Yeah. I always thought that too. Like I was running through those scenarios and I was like, I feel like there is a big disconnect here. So like, is there problem? There's the problem. What
Yes,
is there a solution? What is the solution?
there is a solution, and the fact is that your co-living houses are not rental houses. You have a co-living business. This is a commercial policy. So yeah,
Mhm.
it is going to be more expensive up front, but you are getting that actual coverage, loss of rent, the replacement cost. That's a big one too. If something goes bad, we get it at replacement cost. Those are actually, and the liabilities, all of that is intended for that amount of risk, the usages on the systems, the income generated. That's what they are insuring now. But here's where it's beautiful because it is more expensive up front. But the reason it's more expensive up front is because it's just starting the policy off. It's basically establishing a policy. You're insuring potentially hundreds of thousands, $100,000 of income plus the property itself. They're going to want some scratch in the game up front to establish that policy. But the
Mhm.
beautiful part is, for especially you guys that are scaling, the beautiful part is that this policy acts as one policy for your co-living business. That means that if you have properties throughout the country and they're all under, common ownership, all of those properties can be housed under one policy. So you're only
Mm.
establishing the policy once, paying that large chunk to get it going and adding the liability. But then each house that you add under that policy, you're just simply adding liability on. So it becomes basically the equivalent of a standard landlord policy price for
Mm.
each new property. But now you are actually covered.
Interesting. So can I ask what the cost of the first initial chunk is?
Yeah. So basically, if you were establishing a policy and it was like a brand new construction that you were converting to co-living, it's probably about $5,000, in between $5,000 to $6,000 probably to start. Obviously, ages of systems and all that, like I said, they do play a part into the quote itself. But after that, each property that you add into that policy that they're expanding the protections to, it's probably only about in between 12 to $1,600. Probably the equivalent of a standardized landlord policy, something along those lines.
Okay.
Okay.
So as far as like pricing goes, basically you're saying there when you say like this like setup or like this initial period, this is like the base annual amount that you would be paying. But then it
Mhm.
starts to get more cost effective as you add more and more and more on because you're averaging it
Correct.
over more properties. So okay.
Correct.
So commercial insurance gets down to residential type pricing when you achieve a certain number of properties under the policy.
I guess yes, yeah, because once you spread that initial 5 or 6,000, whatever that initial startup is, and you spread that out over the properties, yes. But you're
Okay.
instantly the very next property that you buy is getting the advantage of the smaller establishing price, right?
Right.
Like,
Mm.
Gotcha.
so it does become cheaper the moment you've set the policy up. It equals itself out better. That initial investment pays for itself, I guess I should say.
So let's say it costs a 5K to set up, and then then you have your monthly policy, and you said that that's how much? A couple $100 a month?
Well, I mean, it's the either you pay it off in chunks or it's going to be spread out over the monthly.
Oh,
You don't
that.
pay this. You're paying the full premium that's built into the premium, that startup cost. So
Oh, so that
if
startup
you
cost
pay,
is the first year.
hmm hmm
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's a one-time annual
hmm
fee, and then each time you add new property, that grows a little bit, of
correct.
course. And then, are you also buying homeowners insurance on top of that?
For most people, unless you're buying an already established co-living property with the residencies filled up, the vacancies filled up, when we're buying the property to start before the renovations, we'll put a standard landlord policy on the house up to about once you've hit that fourth member and you're going to go into the fifth member, that's when we will switch you to the co-living policy because basically you're in a renovation phase, it's not being rented, then you're filling and getting to the threshold, and then after that threshold of 4 people is hit, that is when you're going to need co-living insurance.
Yeah. So basically, there was 5,000 for the initial, and then you've got it's a regular policy, then a landlord policy, and then you switch to co-living
Right, the
policy.
landlord policy is started off first, like the regular standard landlord policy will go up until that fourth bedroom is filled, and then after that, co-living, Protect Plus or something similar. But why would you? You know,
So
that's when that's
specifically there,
essential.
Matt. So are you saying that you always have a landlord policy in place and this co-living or whatever the co-living type insurance takes care of 4 plus, or once you get to over 4, you cancel your landlord policy and now you only have the commercial policy?
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So it's just taking. You're just being put into a new product at that
Okay.
point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this commercial policy, it insures the business and it insures the property. So like if we're getting hail
Correct.
damage to our roof, you'll replace it just as if whatever there's a co-living situation that happens, you'd cover us there.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. This is
So
built specifically for co-living properties. You
right.
know.
So let me ask you something about, like, let's say we're scaling this, right? Let's say Miller and I are going to go buy 1,000 properties, and each property will have different investors on it. Let's say, how do we need to get a new policy for each one, or is there a way where Miller and I have a policy and we can have
However,
different investors?
it's common ownership. It's based off common ownership.
Okay.
So if Miller and Craig own 1,000 properties together throughout, then all of those 1,000 properties could be folded onto the one policy. When you have different partners in these different properties, they are not likely to want to take on the risk of another property that they have no skin in the game on or no equity
Mhm.
in. So that's why your policies, all of them nationwide, no matter where they are, can all be combined under one policies as long as common ownership, as long as there is common ownership. That also means, though, that it's common ownership, but if Craig and Miller's got LLC one and Craig and Miller have got LLC two, but they're both the same owners, managers on those LLCs, then that would work. It doesn't matter about the name of the LLC per se, as long as
Okay.
ownership's the same.
Does it matter about, like, the percentage of ownership? So, like, let's say there's a partner that owns 30% of one, but 50% of another. Same people, but just different
That's a good
pieces of the
question.
pie.
I believe it would be common ownership because the names are the same. You guys both have insured interest in the
Mm.
property itself, no matter what the percentages of that partnership is, for
Okay.
lack of a better term. But yeah, I want to
Yeah.
confirm that just to make sure, because but being that if they are if they are the same owners, same names, can be traced by the same people, it should be okay.
Okay. I guess I'm just thinking this through. Like, what's to say we get a regular landlord policy? It's probably a little cheaper. Let's
A
say
lot
something
cheaper
happens.
to start.
It's a lot cheaper, right? And so like something happens,
Hmm.
they cover it as promised. But then let's say they drop us because they find out what we're
Hmm.
doing, and then we go get the commercial policy. Like, what's stopping someone from taking that approach instead of jumping right into the co-living policy?
Well, I guess nothing except the time wasted and basically paying into a policy that's not actually doing anything for them. So I guess it's just wasted money, you know. But if they do get the payout, if they did, if you're saying that that example went through, I mean, more power to them. That's just on them to take on that risk. Just know that more than likely, if something does happen, you're probably going to be dropped. But that's not going to stop you from being able to then establish the co-living policy afterwards.
Hmm.
It's just you had a headache beforehand, and then you took an aspirin.
Are you seeing insurance companies deny co-living?
Starting starting to a lot more. Yes, I mean, now that there's enough proof of concept that there's a lot of people doing this, and that
Hmm.
there's thousands upon thousands of these policies that have been issued that are not correct. Yeah, now you're almost seeing somewhat straight up denial, but it's hard for them to also know. That means insurance agents are complicit in this as well. They're not maybe telling the full story, or maybe we are renting out rooms, but only four.
Mhm.
And so I think there is naturally in everything new, there's a lot of gray. And I think there's where they started shading darker and erasing harder
Mhm.
because, you get more black and white. Because, yeah, I mean, they're looking at it and their inspectors would be going into these houses. What the
Mhm.
is going on here?
Right.
Why is there 10 people,
Yeah.
10 grown people living in this house? Why?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Matt, with all your real estate agent clients and like all the different
Hmm.
verticals that you're kind of talking about there, have you seen when folks are under a landlord, traditional type policy, have you seen any issues that are more likely to trigger some sort of issue with insurance? For example, like if there's a roof replacement due to hail, or you guys probably don't have hail, but for some
We do,
windstorm
but
or whatever. Okay, is that less likely to cause any issues because the inspector or whoever likely doesn't have to go inside, or is it just like issues inside that are likely to trigger flags? Like what are those issues that are hot button that we should be worried about?
I mean, aside from the tree falling on top of that house,
Okay, so that's a big one.
that's a big one. That immediately raises some things when you get inside the house. And but no, a lot of times, you know what I think one of the biggest culprit is the water systems failing and
Oh, okay.
uh, leaks and just massive water damages because it permeates the entire house. Sometimes, it's not just necessarily a secluded area. Sometimes it
Mm,
might be, but it could be rampant throughout the house, or the water main backs up into the house, piping systems messed up. There's just so many things that when you add 10 people or 8 people or 7 people, you just the use, the chances for non-flushable items to be flushed, and
mhm.
Mhm.
things of that nature. So I think probably water would probably be the largest culprit because it is so damaging.
I gotcha. Okay, so the more of the house that the insurance adjuster, whoever might have to
I
look
mean,
at.
yeah, they got to go through, and he's going one. There's room one
Yeah.
and room two and room three.
Well, we've got them labeled. Like if they're next to room
But
8,
where's
they
the
know there's at
living
least
room?
8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So for the folks who are listening, who is like the ideal, person to use this commercial type product that you're talking about? Is there some sort of home threshold, like, oh, like one house isn't worth it, but when you get to home 3, now you should consider it, or home 5 or home 2? Or is it like not even really connected to the home count, but everyone should do it? Like who should really be listening to this?
Truthfully, everybody should. Everybody
Gotcha.
should be protecting themselves properly from the very beginning. But let's talk reality, and let's talk most investors. They're going to need the cheapest way, or the basics to get it done. But every investor that my partners and I have spoken with all want to scale, all want more than one. No one, I mean, what investor is good with just one property? Once they get the taste, it's like drugs. You just need more. You want more. So there hasn't been a single investor that hasn't said that they only want to stick with one. They all want to scale. And at that point, when you're talking about the potentials of, you know, 20,000 net on each property, I mean, as soon as you get to two, you should be already be popping into it. But really, you should be doing it on the first one as soon as you hit the fifth member, because that is five incomes at
Mm.
risk as soon as they're put in place. And so, yeah, it's to each his own, but you can't cry over the spilled milk when you spilled it, you know? So,
Yeah, and then one other thing I was just thinking about, I've heard that PadSplit has come out with some sort of insurance product on their side. So I'm kind of curious for this product that we're talking about here. Is this useful for people doing co-living off of PadSplit, and then people also go in the membership route and like all of that PadSplit,
any
work?
co any co-living, any co-living operation that's going to house more than four people in
Okay,
that house, this product's for.
okay.
We'll
So
figure
then,
out a way into pad split.
yeah. Okay, so then follow up question there. So you are saying that if we were on PadSplit or off PadSplit, your product would work, right?
We didn't. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
So then for us who are not on PadSplit, sounds like right now you're potentially our only option, or one of our only options, but that PadSplit product is not available since we're not on that platform. So
Right.
for folks out there who are on the PadSplit platform and they have that option of using that product, if it's out yet, I think it is, versus this one, do you kind of have like a comparison of how they may differ?
It's they're probably going to be really similar. Pads, maybe just the carrier themselves might be a little bit different. They might, as to the specifics of what is different, I know for a fact that ours, covers loss of rent fully and the replacement
Mm,
costs, and that was really tough to get. So I'm not
okay.
entirely sure if they have that, but most of the emerging co-living policies that are coming out are going to be similar in nature. Even cost wise, it's really, I think, for your investors, people who are listening, who do you trust in working with this to advise you properly to get you your policies? Use us, don't use us, but get co-living insurance because your
Mhm.
asset will thank you, and your
Yeah.
asset.
Is there anyone that this insurance is not for?
Small level, well, anything other than co-living, first of all, anything other than co-living, this cannot be
Right.
used on, so even multifamily will have its own specific policy. You can't use the co-living for that. But if you've got four bedrooms, if you're only renting out four bedrooms, then
But you
you
don't.
don't need it.
There's no minimum amount of. There's no minimum amount of properties that you need to have. There's no maximum amount of properties that you need to
No,
have.
no.
There's, whether I've got one house hack that I'm living in one unit, one room, and renting out the other nine, this works. And whether I've got
Hmm.
1,000.
Hmm.
Okay.
That was a good point, Craig. What about an owner occupant? Does that add
Yeah.
anything weird to the mix?
Yeah, because the liability is still there. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're planning on renting it out to multiple people, you are incurring multiple liabilities as they are moving in and moved in. So, your personalities, again, the uses on the systems, just outside influences for each person. Each person has their own life situation. You don't know who's going to come and knock in, and
Mhm.
so all of that presents more and more risk. So even
Yeah.
house
So
hacking.
okay. So even if the owner is living in the property, I guess maybe as long as they have a lease or something like that, like they're just treated like a normal occupant under this
Correct.
agreement.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
because there's still technically more than four unrelated people living.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now,
Mhm.
if he rented it out to three other people and his cousin Jimmy or his sister, that might be a little bit different. That's kind of where the gray areas probably exist in this is, I'm
Mm.
house hacking. I've got five people, but two of them are actually family members and three of them are not. That might
Oh, okay.
be a gray area scenario where there is
Okay.
co-living situations like that out there where there is some family living, but also the rest of the rooms are not.
Yeah, totally. So it could potentially get counted different because of the
Right,
related type wording.
right.
Okay. So I
Hmm.
guess I've never really thought about that. So definitely in the legal, city type regulation world, we see like a lot of rules about unrelated people. in most of the insurance policies that are out there, that is the wording that they use. It's not like for units rented or for living spaces or whatever.
Unrelated. Yeah. Unrelated people. Yep. Yep.
Okay. Interesting. Cool.
This has been awesome, man. I didn't realize that this like really existed. And I kept seeing your Facebook posts, and I was like, I can't. And I was gonna, like, I need to get up a couple with Matt. But then I saw you were coming on the podcast. I was like, we're gonna announce this to the world here. So, dude, it's been fantastic. And so I guess what's your plan now, man? Like, you've got a lot of stuff going on. You've got your agent, you got management, you got your own properties, you got insurance. I know those are all full-time jobs. So
Absolutely.
like, and you're married, which is a full-time job.
Yep.
And do you have
Yep.
kids?
Yep. I have a daughter. Yep.
You have a daughter. You got like 6 full-time jobs, lots of hats, lots of shoes, lots of bellies to feed. So like, something's going to give here. So I'm going to ask you what's going to give. What do you want to focus on?
Really, I'm selfish. I've always wanted my own portfolios and, of massive amounts of time freedom because of it. So this is all leading, into acquiring more properties. But, for me, it's kind of just, I didn't realize how into co-living I was going to get. It's just been really natural. So my next step is kind of wanting to see if, hey, can we affect legislations? Can we get city ordinances and municipalities to change their ways? I mean, you're already seeing it. You saw it in Denver. You're seeing it in Washington. You're definitely starting to see it, especially as affordability for homes is getting to be a pipe dream for a lot of people. But I really think that is that final piece of, Airbnb and Uber. They came out, and you were driving other people around in your car, and there was no rules for that. It was just kind of, you were driving people in your car, and then there was and you were renting your house out for vacation or for a week, and then all of a sudden there became a platform, and then all of a sudden there was regulations in the towns, and you just saw the kind of the natural progression of all of a sudden AirDNA was invented. Well, soon there's going to be a co-living DNA invented, and that's going to standardize the process. So I see this standardizing, and I want to be a part of the standardization. I want to be a part of especially because we're basically ground floor for this movement. And, all of us are ground floor in these little different pockets of the country, all doing it uniquely, but all doing it similarly to get to the same goal. As an agent, I've lived so poor that I ate garbage. I've also made so much money that it's amazing, and I know which one I never want to be again. But I know that.
What was your favorite garbage?
Quesadillas from tourists.
Quesadillas?
Yeah.
All right.
And nachos.
Nachos. Yeah, all good.
Garbage real quick and just grab them out. So I have lived on that kind of. Well, you just need a place to stay, man. You just need a house. Yeah. You need a place. And the fact that we're able to provide a physical address, a place to rest their head, that is a decent home. That's my, if I have any beefs with some of the co-living that some of y'all are still trying to think of this as a boarding house. And I ask all my clients to their face, would you live here? Because if you say no, then you probably shouldn't be a co-living investor. Because this is to help people as well as make a crap ton of money, and we're all going to make a crap ton of money doing it. But if you're not doing good in order to do well, then it's kind of just wasteful. So that's where I see it. I see it just like continuing to push co-living forward and push it to where it's basically standard across the country, where, when you think about it too, with legislation, like, why wouldn't they behind it? You're giving thousands of people a physical address, which means what? They can vote. And who are they going to vote for? The one that allowed for them to get a physical address because it's legal in their town, right? So now there's so many different ways to benefit, and that they can still benefit themselves. So it's kind of like, how do we show them how they can benefit themselves while helping a crap ton of people, So that's where I see it, man. I'm going to keep putting on the different hats, keep trying out different stuff. The insurance obviously is a very long play and a long game. So as long as I'm continuing to introduce it to people and give people an opportunity to check it out, great. As for the real estate agents, I would love a team of agents like you that are helping people with co-living, and
Yeah.
therefore I can focus on operating my properties.
Awesome, man. I love that, dude. I love it. Well, Matt, before we head off into the final part of the show, any
Yeah,
words of
man.
wisdom you want to impart on all of our listeners?
Just do right by your tenants, give them a good place to live. It's, yeah, you're going to make money. Everybody with this type of model, it's really hard not to make money when you've got that many rooms renting out. So give your people a really good product, and don't be a slumlord, because that
Yeah,
will be
amen.
better for all of us. It's better for all of us. Like, this is a legitimate housing option. Legitimate housing option for people, and it needs to be seen like that, and played like
Amen.
that.
Yeah, amen to that, dude. I can't emphasis. If this was a text message, I would emphasize that last message. Double click that. Awesome, dude. Well, Miller, you ready to get into the final part of the show?
Let's do it. Let's get into the
Big three. Boom. There's
right.
three of us. We're all big. We're about to do the big three.
I am 6'2". Yes.
You are 6'2".
Mhm.
I'm 5'10".
I know you guys are not 6'2".
The big one, I'm a smaller
6'2"
guy.
on camera. Actually, even this camera makes me look short.
I'm huge.
Yeah. I mean, first question is, what's one tool or system you use in your business that you could not live without?
One tool in my business that I could not live without. Probably my Google Drive and my hot sheet, because that's where I aggregate all my properties that I, analyzed and underwritten for the potential investors. And there'd be just no way to broadcast that message across the without having it, and give people a lot of different options for the properties that I had found here in Charlotte or surrounding Charlotte. So I think that's probably my biggest tool, physical tool, that I could not do without. Oh, the calculator, because we helped develop that thing, and that is, although people get married to that calculator, like that, those numbers are end all be all, and I don't understand that, but that tool is essential. Absolutely.
Cool. Awesome. All right, question number 2. So you've been involved in dozens and dozens of co-living deals, and with the vertical integration on all sorts of different sides of it. So what's one transaction or operational horror story that you were involved with, or like your operator after they purchased was involved with? What's the worst one?
Oh man. I was just talking about this yesterday. I have PTSD from one of the first co-living deals that Sam and I had done for a student, and I was overseeing and estimating the renovations, and it was my very first one, and I've barely lifted a fucking hammer in my life. Excuse my French, I apologize. I've barely lifted a hammer in my life. So pretending like I knew what I was doing with estimating. So I recommended that we should add 2 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms to this large garage. And I massively underestimated how much that project was going to cost, to where what I thought the entire job was going to cost, including the bathrooms thing, was the cost of just the 2 bathrooms and the bedroom. So that was a large horror story for me.
Yeah.
But I'd say one of my most memorable transactions co-living was with invoice authorization. We were doing a deal on this $1 million property, and we were able to get over $100,000 in invoice authorization to go to the contractor. So we got over 100,000 off, and that was the largest invoice authorization I had ever gotten, and it was one of my earliest ones too. So it was so insanely satisfying that we figured out a way to get massive amounts of concession money for our upfits and repairs and renovations that we needed. It just, so that I'm probably most proud of. Oh, and that's another tool couldn't live without: the invoice authorization. That's my baby of babies. I can't believe I didn't say that to start. I've probably gotten over $4 or $5 million worth of concessions over the last 4 years through invoice authorization. Just, I might be exaggerating a little bit, but I know for a fact it's over 2 million, 3 million.
We might need to have you back. We need to do a deep dive episode almost on invoice authorization, because I feel like
with
people really want to.
examples.
Yeah, with
It's a
Yeah.
brilliant
examples,
tool.
whiteboard.
Yes.
Yeah, because people have got a lot of questions. We've walked a lot of our clients through that as well,
Yeah.
and there's definitely an art to it as well as a
I can
science.
tell you
in
this, there
terms
is
of-
nobody in the country that has done it more, developed it than this one right here. I wrote the script. I developed how to talk to the agents, what to say, the nuances, how to talk to the appraisers, just because I had to, because we were getting hit with this, and we were just like, oh man.
yeah,
So, but yeah,
we might,
now it's very rare that I don't get it now in
yeah,
a deal.
we
So
might
yeah,
have
we
to.
should deep dive
Yeah,
on that
let's.
because that's
We'll have to. Next episode, we'll have you back on probably here shortly. Maybe if we even give you a twofer in a week. That would be the first time we
whoa,
do that.
whoa.
Yeah.
Hey, oh man.
He's
Bring your other
sweating.
hat, though.
His hair just grew 6 inches. All right, Matt. So outside of this podcast and our community, where are you learning the most about co-living today?
I am probably in the operational side of things. I would say I've got the system down in terms of acquisition. I've got the underwriting down and all that. What I'm learning the most about now is actually operating, because I'm doing property management as well for co-living homes, and seeing what works in setup, what doesn't work in setup, how to eliminate tenant conflicts before they're even there, things of that nature, just operational things. That's probably what I'm learning the most out of. And then really understanding your tenant source,
Mm-hmm.
really understanding the psychology of the type of people that you are renting to allows you to better screen them and get better results for your business, you know?
Yeah. Do you see yourself more as an operations mind or more as a like sales mind?
The ADD side of me is definitely sales and that personal touch, but I do know that I personally cannot operate without having a system, even if it's just a rudimentary type of system. So operations is becoming more and more important to me as I'm, for lack of a better term, mastering the people side and that sales angle. I don't need to put that focus now. Now it's administrative and organizational and operational that I want to get better at and continue to get better at, for sure.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Last question before we get you out of here, Matt. Where can listeners find you, learn more about you, or connect with you directly? Where should they reach out if they want to buy something, insurance, all that?
Okay. So for real estate acquisition, for me to be your realtor, I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm with Caldwell Banker Realty. You can reach me at Matt, M-A-T-T Osman, O-S-M-A-N, at cbrealty.com. And if you want to reach me for guidance on Co-Living Protect Plus and then co-living insurance, then you can reach me at MAT at williamsins.net.
Okay. And you only have one
And
T on the
Facebook
end.
and social media. Yeah, one T.
Okay. Cool. Got it.
Cool. Matt, thank you so much for coming out, man. Thanks so much for sharing everything that you know. I'm looking forward to having you back to like dive deep on invoice authorization stuff. And looking forward to
Absolutely.
connecting with you further, man. We're doing a lot of, I feel like our minds are similar. So I always love connecting with similar minds.
Absolutely. And I'll see y'all at the summit.
See y'all at the summit, man. We'll send you the link for that.
Mhm.
And looking forward to seeing you there.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me
All right,
on,
bro.
boys. It's been a
See
pleasure.
you soon. Okay.
Got it.
And that was Matt Osman with one T.
With, I don't know, I think some handles had two T's, some have one. We'll have to clarify that.
Yeah. And his name is two T's.
Yeah, so that would be like, okay, this actually does make sense sometimes. So some of my nicknames have Mill in there, and there is one L in that case. MILL would look weird, but MAT would look worse than MATT.
Yeah, totally. I feel like MILL works though, because you're like, isn't that how you spell like you're milling?
Yeah, true. It's more like nicknames, like, well, I guess I was good. Yeah. Mill Pickle.
Spanish.
That was like my name growing up, Mill Pickle.
Okay.
And it's like
Pickle,
MIL. I don't know where it came from. It was my grandma. I have no idea, and we'll just leave it
Uh-huh.
there.
Blame it on grandma. Okay. And
Pickle.
if you were in like Mexico, would it be like me? Because the L is like a ye.
Oh, true. Yeah. I don't
Meyer.
know how they say it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I think it does have Spanish origins, the word Miller, from what I
Miller.
remember. But
Does it actually?
me saying that out loud does not sound right, but I'm pretty sure it was like Spanish, like grain person. But maybe it's just in general for the whole world. Maybe that was a incorrect AI query. This was back when ChatGPT wasn't as good as it is now.
Yeah, there it is. Awesome, man. Speaking of Matt, and speaking of, I don't know how we got down that tangent, but
MAT.
yeah, man, MAT.
Yeah.
What a good episode, man. Like outside of his name and his hair and minor judgment on his anime obsession, I have to say, super impressive dude. I love what he's doing. I love that he was like the one to take the initiative on the house hack or the co-living insurance. That was a much needed thing. And I'm excited to see what he makes of it.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, I think Matt's a kind of guy that I really didn't know much about. I think I met him at maybe a conference last year, but otherwise, this is a really great intro for all three of us, I think, and also introing Matt to the rest of the world here. So yeah, super stoked to see what he's doing with the insurance going forward. And it sounds like we'll have him back for another episode here about another awesome tool, another awesome vertical kind of that he has here in the real estate co-living niche, which specifically invoice authorization. So that's a way to dramatically reduce the amount of capital that you have to bring to a deal. So stay tuned for that one.
Yeah, stay tuned. And you'll know when that episode comes out if you subscribe to the show or follow or whatever the app you use terminology is. So give us a subscribe, give us a follow, give us a 5-star review, comment on us, post. Let's talk about it in the Facebook group. Let's get it all together, man. So looking forward to seeing you guys around, and let's go co-living.
All right. See you guys. Thanks.